Are you the one that does everything at your house, like taking care of the kids, doing all the housework, earning money, paying the bills, making all the social plans? Have you asked your husband to help, but he won't? And it just causes a fight? It's so exhausting and lonely and unfair. If you're tired of doing all the work and you want him to do a lot more so you can get a break, this is for you. I'm Laura Doyle, New York Times bestselling author, and I was the perfect wife. But then I got married. This is the Empowered Wife podcast. Here are two secrets to stop doing all the work in marriage. And to explain this little known approach to getting your man to do more and also having him offer or surprise you and just take initiative and do the dirty jobs with a smile, you need to understand where this idea came from. It's a story that involves a huge pile of dirty dishes and 4 negotiating experiments. Not long after we were married, I was doing most of the housework and the cooking and the grocery shopping, paying the bills, and working full time while my husband John mostly watched TV. Even the things that he did, I had to remind him to do them. So it was a heavy mental load. I was not happy about this, of course. I mean, who wouldn't be resentful? I was very resentful, but I knew what to do. And this is experiment number 1. It didn't feel like an experiment to say this. It just felt like common sense. I told him he needed to help with the housework more, like the dishes, for example. I said, since I cooked, you should clean the kitchen. So logical, right? I even made a list of chores and posted it on the fridge so he could see that it was his job in case he forgot. But nothing changed. I was still doing everything and still seething with resentment. It was inexplicable to me that he would dig in his heels and be such a stinker about it, leaving me to suffer doing all the work. That led me to experiment number 2, letting him know how unhappy I was by complaining. So I said, John, this kitchen is a disaster. It's not fair that I have to do all these dishes while you just sit on the couch watching TV after I made the dinner. I really thought that he would leap off the couch and start scraping plates and scrubbing pans, but that never happened. It seemed like he didn't really even hear me, especially after he turned the TV up to drown me out. Yeah, I was still the kitchen elf, still stuck with no hope of ever getting a break. It was beyond frustrating, and it turned into a pretty big fight at my house, which got ugly, if I'm honest. And it left me with this terrible emotional hangover, which was all his fault because why wouldn't he just do the dishes? But I had another idea, experiment number 3. I leaned into the theory that you get more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. So I decided to ask him to do the dishes very sweetly. I said, John, would you please do the dishes? See how sweet? Problem was, I was seething with resentment. So everything I said came out in a school teacher voice because I felt like I was the only responsible adult in our family of 2 people. So it actually sounded more like this. John, would you please wash the dishes? As you already know, that didn't work either. The dishes were piled as high as ever, and there was wall to wall hostility at our house. No laughing, no snuggling, no planning our future together, just thick, thick tension. So I was 0 for 3 with my experiments. Finally, I did experiment number 4. All I said was, I would love a clean kitchen. And shockingly, that worked. He said, okay, I'll do the dishes. What? But I didn't question it. I just smiled and said, thank you. That makes me so happy, which didn't feel as natural to say as maybe like, it's about time. He not only did the dishes that night, he's been doing them ever since. And that was over 20 years ago. And I don't even ask, he just does them. Why? because it makes his wife happy. To this day, I still tell him how happy it makes me, and I admire that clean kitchen out loud quite a bit. And now he does a lot of other things around here too: dishes, trash, laundry, makes the bed, opens all the packages, cleans the backyard, charges my car. And he does it all willingly, voluntarily, with a smile because it makes me happy. And it turns out my happiness, it's one of the most important things in the world to him. And not just to him, but thousands of men that I've talked to, they all say the same thing. When I've asked them how important it is to them that their wife is happy, they all say, oh, it's the most important thing, or it's everything. And in the UK, they say, it's imperative. You might think that your husband doesn't have a hero gene. Well, that's what I thought too. And so do a lot of the women I talk to. But it turns out we were all wrong. Once I learned how to trigger my husband's hero gene, he had boundless energy and motivation to do the things that he knows will delight me. So the first secret to stop doing all the work is to trigger your husband's hero gene by expressing your desires in a way that inspires. And you can do this by saying, I would love, and then just say the final outcome, not how it gets done. It can be anything like, I would love a new couch. I would love sushi for dinner. I would love 2 hours of solitude this afternoon. I would love a clean kitchen. Expressing your desires in a way that inspires your husband is a powerful cheat phrase for getting what you want in your marriage, including being able to stop doing all the work. But if for any reason it doesn't work for you, check out podcast number 241 for the 4 reasons your desires aren't inspiring. Or if you want a more personal experience, join my coaching program and we'll help you trigger your husband's hero gene. Also, there's one more secret that will help you stop doing all the work in your marriage. Here it is. Secret number 2, stop doing all the work. Okay. You're probably rolling your eyes right now if you're anything like I was. I would have too in the bad old days. I thought I was only doing all the work because otherwise it wouldn't get done and our house would be a dump and the cars would break down and the bills would be late. But it turns out that wasn't the real reason I was working so hard. The other reason was because I felt guilty if I didn't. I didn't feel worthy of being taken care of. I thought I needed to pull my own weight, and keeping the house tidy was my job. And so was being a savvy grocery shopper and a good cook and staying on top of the laundry. When John was doing things that I considered my job, it made me uncomfortable. So it was a stretch to learn to relax and just let him be my hero. Sometimes it still is. But now that I know how to express my desires in a way that inspires, it's obvious that he wants to be my hero if I'll let him. And it's obvious that things will get as good as I can stand. I have exciting news about the Empowered Wife podcast. Lots of you have asked how you can listen to an interview on a particular topic, and we heard you. So from now on, my guest interviews will be featured on their very own podcast episode with their own title to match the topic, so you can search for it. So if you're interested in hearing about how to fix your marriage to a narcissist or a neurodiverse husband, or what to do with a blended family, or when there's an addiction, or an affair, a separation, a sexless marriage, you'll be able to search the new interview episodes by title. And I'll also continue to share my experience and my best tips on how to use the 6 intimacy skills to fix your marriage without as conscious effort, just like I did just now, on separate episodes so that you'll still be able to search for those topics too. So listen and subscribe to the Empowered Wife podcast. On next week's podcast, my guest will share how she transformed her marriage and her life by taking the 4 steps to relationship coach certification. And in the meantime, I hope you're having lots of fun. Today's fun fact is that I've been hanging out in bars a lot lately. Yeah, the Nail Bar, the Dry Bar, and the Genius Bar.